Francine continues to track closer to the Gulf Coast of the United States, where hurricane conditions in places like New Orleans are possible. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo on a Tuesday. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, I've got all the newest information on Francine, what's going on with the storm right now, the changes in the forecast. We'll look at some active weather today across our area, including portions of Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and 2 areas in the Atlantic with potential tropical development. You know, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments section below what's been happening in your area, what the weather has been like, or of course you just want to say hi. We are going to start this video all things Francine. We'll talk about what's happening with the storm right now and look at the forecast. We'll then get into what's happening across the rest of the Caribbean for today, your island by island rainfall forecast, and those areas, those disturbances in the Atlantic. As of the 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time Tuesday advisory from the Hurricane Center, Francine is still a tropical storm. Winds are 65 miles an hour, so it has not strengthened as far as maximum winds in the last 24 hours. That, of course, is great news, but Francine is still forecast to become a hurricane either later tonight or early on Wednesday. Looking at the satellite imagery, Francine ingested a little bit of drier air earlier today, which kind of capped that strengthening and didn't allow it to strengthen. But over the last couple of frames, you see these whites here near the center of circulation. That is deeper convection beginning to develop. All signs point that Francine will continue to grow, continue to strengthen. I mean, right now in satellite imagery, it looks like a very healthy, mature, high-end tropical storm and could be teetering on hurricane strength relatively quickly. Now, there's a couple of good pieces of news. Because Francine has not gotten any stronger, it is now not forecast to become a Category 2 hurricane, but it is still forecast to be a higher end Category 1 as it moves closer to the Louisiana coastline later in the day on Wednesday. We'll get into the forecast of this coming up in a second, but the latest statistics of Francine look like this: 65 mile an hour sustained winds, 987 millibar pressure. So even though Francine hasn't gotten any stronger as far as winds, the pressure has dropped by 9 millibars since this time yesterday. It's a deepening storm. That means more than likely those winds will start to shoot up here momentarily. Northeast movement at 10 miles an hour, located 360 miles to the southwest of Morgan City, Louisiana. These are the current watches and warnings that are in effect. Hurricane warning is in effect from Cameron, Louisiana, east to Grand Isle. We have a hurricane watch for the metro New Orleans area. That includes Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. These same areas are also under tropical storm warnings. So for metro New Orleans, a tropical storm warning means tropical storm conditions are likely. A hurricane watch means hurricane conditions are possible. Tropical storm warnings are then extended on either side of those, from High Island, Texas to Cameron, Louisiana, and from Grand Isle, Louisiana, east to the Alabama-Florida border. Before we go any further, I do want to let you know I am going to be covering Francine live here at Meteo Mundo. So make sure you're a subscriber, you have those notifications on, because I'll be doing a live stream tracking Francine moving into Louisiana tomorrow. Don't have a specific time as of yet. It will all depend, of course, on the forward speed of Francine and exactly where it's going to be going. But that's why you want those notifications on for when I go live. So again, we'll have live webcams, we'll have our live chat up. I'll be tracking it for you live. We'll be interacting. So join me here at Meteo Mundo for that. After this video, our 24/7 radar will be coming back online as well. So in between these videos and before that live stream, you can track Francine for yourself here at Meteo Mundo. Look for that in the live tab. So let's talk about some of the changes here to the intensity and the track. Again, the intensity is good because it's now forecast to stay a Cat 1 with winds of 90 miles an hour. There has been a shift east in the track. It's been a little bit more than subtle, but I don't expect it to change much more because the steering currents are kind of now locked in from here on out. This time yesterday, that center line was over Lafayette. Now it's a little bit more over Franklin, kind of towards Houma, and on the far eastern envelope of this cone of uncertainty now includes the metro New Orleans area. These are the spaghetti plots. Notice they're kind of right down that center line. Now, the trend has been over the last 24 hours for the models to shift Francine slightly farther east, where more of southeast Louisiana would see the direct impacts. Places like Grand Isle and Houma and New Orleans itself, and a little bit better news for places like Lafayette, New Iberia areas, okay? But again, it's not a huge track east, but this does put New Orleans a little bit more in the area of concern. If this were to take the center line, New Orleans would stay on the eastern dirty side of the storm. So we would have to watch out for east to southeast winds that could bring in some very good storm surge into this area and a tremendous amount of rain. The forecast is for 4 to 8 inches, but locally up to 12 inches of rain. Now, if you live in these areas, you need to be getting done with your preparations either tonight or very early on Wednesday. The weather is going to really start to go downhill throughout the day on Wednesday. Obviously, the winds are already freshening up outside right now, but we're going to have all modes of impact, including the potential for some tornadic activity with the squalls that come on shore. So let's talk about the forecast now. We're going to look at a lot of different models. First one I want to look at is our HRRR model. This is our high resolution rapid refresh model. Give me just 1 second here to load it up. I love this model in these kinds of instances because it updates hourly, okay? So it's going to give us a lot of real-time information, if you will. Again, the rings that you see are kind of the rings of the potential winds based off of the models, but let's take a look at this HRRR model. We'll take a look at the timing and the intensity out of this as well. This model has also taken that trend to shift Francine a little bit farther off towards the east. Now, a couple of notes here. All the models have Francine encountering shear a few hours before it makes landfall in Louisiana, whether that's the south central or the southeast side of the state. So more than likely, the peak intensity of Francine will actually occur prior to landfall. The storm will either hold its intensity or actually weaken a little bit as it moves closer to coastal Louisiana. That's great news because this is not going to be a storm that tries to bomb out at the last minute and get stronger and stronger. More than likely, right about here, just after lunch on Wednesday, is when Francine will be its strongest. And you notice in the HRRR, we start to lose a little bit of that eye a bit here as it encounters the shear. The forecast is for very rapid weakening as it moves on shore. It's going to kind of blow its top and expand out like this and not have a very deep, low-level center of circulation just north of New Orleans. But obviously for southeast Louisiana, the impacts will still be significant. But I just want to point out that more than likely, the storm will either be holding its intensity or actually slowly decreasing in intensity as it begins to move on shore. Now, the impacts will begin to be felt here fairly early on Wednesday, midday, mid-morning into the early afternoon hours, and then the brunt of the storm beginning mid-afternoon, but deeper into the afternoon, especially the evening hours. Landfall potentially again early evening, sometime around there. Don't really want to pinpoint it as of yet. But obviously the weather going downhill rapidly in this area throughout the day on Wednesday with hurricane conditions likely. If we take a look at the winds associated with this HRRR model, I'm going to loop this up. You'll notice that that trend that I mentioned about it peaking before landfall will be here with the model. And again, this thing updates every hour, so sometimes we catch mid runs, but it looks like we're good to go here with a full model run. So let me pause this right about here, okay? And then we'll stair step this up. So if we see these, like those yellows right about there, again, this is that same time frame I mentioned, right around noon on Wednesday. This is kind of the peak of Francine, right around 90-mile-an-hour winds, exactly what the Hurricane Center has this peaking at. That dot right there is a 90-mile-an-hour mark from the Hurricane Center. If we go a little bit further in time into the afternoon, notice we start to lose some of those yellows. We still have hurricane winds, but they're a little bit weaker, okay? I mean, at least it's okay news. It's not the worst case scenario, but again, you know, Grand Isle and Houma and New Orleans will all more than likely see low-end hurricane force wind gusts or even higher than that, right? So this is now 7 o'clock. Let's see what those winds look like in southeast Louisiana near Grand Isle. These are sustained winds. I want to be clear. These are sustained winds, and we have some near hurricane force coming in there, okay? And gusts will obviously be a lot higher than that. And then those winds go over right over Lake Pontchartrain and other areas. So we take a look at this. Near Metro New Orleans, sustained winds of over 60. That's why you're under a tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch. I'll expand this view out. That center line kind of goes right up towards the Hattiesburg area in Mississippi. Now again, on the eastern side, that's going to be the strongest winds, the highest storm surge. So coastal Mississippi could obviously feel some direct strong impacts as well, even as far east as Mobile, Alabama. Even into southwest Louisiana, storm surge could still be an issue, but obviously the center line track in areas east will have the brunt of the heaviest rain, the strongest winds, the highest storm surge, and on the east side too, that tornadic potential with the rotating storms. These storms obviously have some inherent rotation associated with it. When we look at the European model, it's all about the same. It's slightly west from the HRRR, but it has also subtly shifted east, and pretty much all the models have done that. They're a little bit farther east than what they were yesterday. The European model has this coming in late in the day on Wednesday evening as a hurricane. HAF's A model is about the same. HAF's A model is a little bit stronger, right about here. It actually makes it very briefly a category 3. I don't buy that. I don't buy that rapid, deep strengthening. It's not out of the question. But again, the forecast from the Hurricane Center has this as a peak 90-mile-an-hour storm, either holding that strength or slowly weakening as it moves into the southeast side of Louisiana. Take myself off screen, look at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You'll see that 115 peak very quickly right about there, and then weakens after that, okay? So again, all the models have wind shear impacting this storm before landfall, hopefully knocking it down a bit before it does. At least that is a decent piece of news. This is not as good. The storm surge is going to be a huge issue, guys. I mentioned it in yesterday's video. Louisiana's coastline is a receding coast. It means that the Gulf of Mexico is reclaiming the coast. It's swampy, it's marshy. There's not a lot of solid land to stop this storm surge from going deep inland, and that's going to be a problem because you're looking at a 5 to 10 foot storm surge for south central Louisiana, including Vermilion Bay, of 5 to 10 feet. Even as far east of the mouth of the Mississippi River, including Grand Isle, 4 to 7. It's a 3 to 5 foot storm surge possible for Lake Pontchartrain. It's a 2 to 4 foot storm surge all the way towards Mobile Bay. So again, coastal Mississippi, Biloxi, Gulfport, Pascagoula, Bay St. Louis, 3 to 5 foot storm surge, 2 to 4 foot towards Mobile Bay. You've got a 3 to 5 back towards Sabine Pass. You've got a 2 to 4 towards High Island, and a 1 to 3 for coastal Texas, including Galveston Bay. Now look, we can handle 1, right? We just don't want to see that 3, but 5 to 10 in this area is going to be a major, major problem, all right? Please check in with your local officials. If there are evacuation orders, please heed those from your local officials as well. The waves are going to be ridiculous in the northwest Gulf of Mexico, more than likely over 25 feet for some time, and you can see that. Now, obviously, that's not the wave heights we're going to have as it comes on shore, but in the open waters of the northwest Gulf of Mexico, again, bottom right-hand side of your screen, I've got a peak on the model there of a 28-foot seas. All right, extremely rough surface sea conditions. Here's the great news for the live stream tomorrow. We've got all this buoy data. We've got these oil platforms out there. We're going to have a lot of dense weather information coming out of the Northwest Gulf, and I'm going to be very curious to see what some of the wave heights are going to be. But that's just another impact for some of these areas. Obviously, one of the other huge impacts is going to be the rainfall. This is the GFS model rainfall, and let me dump off some of these numbers here. But along this track, right in line with what the Hurricane Center official forecast, 4 to 8 inches, locally up to 12. We see that foot of rain right along this center line. Franklin, Homa, Thibodaux, 7, New Iberia, 5 to 6. I don't think we're going to get as lucky here in the Grand Isle area. We're a Grand Isle to only see 3, 4. It's more than likely going to be 6 plus. Metro New Orleans, 5, 6, 7 towards Hammond, 7, 8, Baton Rouge, 5, Slidell, 5, Picayune, Mississippi, 5, Biloxi, 5, Waveland, 5. Look, we're all right in line here, right? 4 to 8, but locally higher, maybe even up to 12 inches of rain. Going to be a huge issue when you add in the fact, and I mentioned in yesterday's video as well, that the city of New Orleans is below sea level. You've got Lake Pontchartrain on one side, you've got the Mississippi River on the other side, and the fishbowl down below is the city of New Orleans. They have a tough enough time with good thunderstorms in the summer months, in the afternoon hours, let alone a storm that's going to bring 4 to 8 inches in a quick time, and potentially a storm surge as well. So flooding is going to be a big problem in southeast Louisiana, including Metro New Orleans as well. All right, guys, before we get into the rest of the forecast, if you want to do me a real quick favor, small payback, I'd appreciate you guys liking this video right now. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, you want these latest forecasts, click that subscribe button right now. Thank you for sharing this with your family and friends. Again, appreciate other ways to support the channel via our memberships. That's the join button. They're just 99 cents a month. The super thanks and other ways you can find in the description below. We're going to now get into the forecast for the rest of our area, and I appreciate all of our friends sticking around here. We've had some pretty active weather here, so let's go back to this product, put this into motion. First area I want to start off with is what's happening right now in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, because it has been a very wet, stormy day. We've had flood warnings. We've had special marine advisories. That's the polygons you see in blue. We've had special weather statements for some really nasty storms. At the hour, the most active weather right now is over the U.S. Virgin Islands, including St. Croix, where we have a flash flood warning in effect for the entire island. But we've had numerous flash flood warnings, and you'll see those pop up here in green through portions of Puerto Rico, including the San Juan area. The yellows have been special weather statements, which is just kind of one category below a severe thunderstorm warning. And these large polygons in blue are special marine warnings. And we've had those through most of eastern Puerto Rico, the U.S., and the British Virgin Islands. What do you say we take a live look at the radar here out of Puerto Rico and see what's happening right now? Look at all of the rain that is over St. Croix, over St. Thomas, over St. John, over Jost Van Dyke, over Road Town Tortola. You can't even see the outlines of the islands. Virgin Gorda, up towards Anegada. Extremely heavy rainfall, localized flooding continues in these spots. This is that shear axis that was over the Lesser Antilles yesterday that has moved off towards the west and has brought a considerable amount of rain. So please be advised that in these areas, flash flooding could continue here the remainder of this Tuesday late afternoon into the evening hours, and potentially redeveloping in some spots on our Wednesday as well. But that's just a huge swath of very heavy rain across that area at this point in time. Go over to our enhanced satellite imagery again, put this back into motion. Now, you can see that we have these clouds going in different directions. That is actually confluence here. We're getting a lot of lift in the atmosphere in a north to south fashion over these areas. It's been drier today over most of the Lesser Antilles, but some of this has back-built back over places like Anguilla and St. Martin and Saba and St. Eustatius and Statia, St. Bart's, St. Kitts and Nevis, all the Saints, Barbuda, Antigua, Montserrat. All of these areas, again, have had some very heavy rainfall totals in spots, okay? Not as widespread as Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but some of that moisture is trying to move back off towards the east. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, isolated showers and storms. St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, we've had some active air weather in this area. There was a flash flood watch in effect for portions of Barbados for today. More moisture developing over Trinidad and Tobago as well. And some of this will try and move off towards Nueva Esparta. ABC Islands look to be relatively dry. Thunderstorms have redeveloped this afternoon over portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. You can see those storms in the southern sides of the island moving off towards the south. Few storms over Cuba. We've had some healthy storms over portions of Jamaica for today. Hopefully getting a few storms near the Kingston area. Decent lightning strikes as well here. Let me bring up the lightning data. Let's see here. There we go. Live lightning data here out of Meteo Mundo. Pretty healthy lightning strikes. If you live in Jamaica, you've had a couple of storms for today, let me know. But hopefully, if nothing else, it cooled you off a little bit. And more could try to be moving off the southeast coast of Cuba. We've been quiet in the Cayman Islands for today. Some of those storms trying to work their way in, but more than likely not. It's actually been a little bit drier through the Yucatan on this Tuesday. Just a few isolated showers and storms even towards Belize, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Few storms moving in there. We've had a couple of storms over Panama and Costa Rica, and my friends in the Bahamas for today have been relatively quiet. We're just getting a few storms to try and work their way back into this area as of now. What do you say we take a look at the radar there real quick? Few storms over Andros, Grand Bahama, Bimini, Freeport, Lucaya, Walker's Key. A couple of scattered showers and storms in those areas. Okay, so now we're going to get into the two disturbances in the Atlantic. First of all, this one here is Invest 92L, okay? Looks okay right now on imagery, doesn't it, right? This is the one that's going to be moving due west. But all the models have actually tried to weaken this before it gets to the Lesser Antilles. So even though this one looks pretty good right now, the Hurricane Center has actually dropped the chance of development. It's gone from an orange area down to a yellow area. Obviously, it's something I'm going to be monitoring for our friends in the Lesser Antilles, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. This is the one, well, we've got this one here, then we've got the Invest area here. There's all kinds of things going on here. This is new Invest 93L, by the way, way out here, okay? This is the one that more than likely will become a storm, and maybe our next named storm, by the way, but should be gaining far enough latitude north where we're not going to have to worry about it for our area. Should be a fish storm, if anything else. Let me show you the GFS model. I'm going to extend this out over the whole week ahead, and we'll take a look at what these storms are going to do. Now, sorry about that, a little too close. We'll deal with the area in yellow first because it's closest to us. Here's the GFS running. You don't see much after the next couple days, right? There it is right now, but it slowly fades out as it tries to get to the Lesser Antilles. It is due west more because it's a shallow surface-based system and the easterly trades are going to push it in. So this could bring more wet weather to the Lesser Antilles in general, but as far as an actual low-level center of circulation where we'd have a depression or a storm, doesn't look to be the case, even though, again, it looks relatively healthy on satellite imagery. This is the one that more than likely is going to wrap up and become our next storm. But again, it's gaining latitude fairly quickly, should be a fish storm out of this, all right? Could be a pretty small compact storm as well. Bermuda, by the way, could get hit with some healthy rain over the next few days as well. When we look at the GFS model of these systems, again, nothing is extremely close to the Lesser Antilles, all right? Still on the far western outliers, it's a possibility, but the cluster of this has it recurving quicker to the north. Obviously, for our friends here from Antigua and Barbuda to Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago throughout the islands, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, I'll keep a really close eye on it. But again, most of the ensembles on the GFS bring it north. Now, this is 92L, and I hope you have the speakers up and listening to me, because obviously this looks threatening, does it? But you notice that all of these lines are basically gray. They're very, very weak. And you notice that that line here doesn't go any farther west than this, because more than likely this basically blows its top before it gets to the Lesser Antilles, all right? But the reason why it's due west now is because it's such a weak, shallow storm that the trade winds are going to try and push it to the islands, all right? So other than that, when I get back over to the NAM, we're going to get over to the island by island forecast as well. So let me pop up the NAM. I've been using every single model here. I kind of love it, to be honest. Just trying to show you guys all the best information I can. So over the next couple of days, again, active weather could persist across the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Some of the areas that have had some very wet weather today could continue to see some marginally excessive rainfall and flash flood potential for the next few days as well. This will shift into Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, where rain chances there will go up. Anywhere west of there, it's going to be more isolated in nature. My friends in Jamaica, Kingston, Port Moore, Spanish Town, the Cayman Islands, 30-40% chance at best. Expecting isolated showers and maybe a few thunderstorms in the afternoon hours for the northwest Bahamas. Central and the southeast side of the Bahamas are relatively quiet, and actually a little bit drier weather for the Yucatan and into portions of Central America as well. Most active weather will be over the Lesser Antilles, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico over the next couple of days. So that's how the rainfall looks in these areas. 40% chance northwest Bahamas tomorrow, Thursday, 30% chance on Friday. 30% chance central and southeast Bahamas, down to a 20 on Friday. Isolated showers for the Turks and Caicos. Few thunderstorms developing in the afternoon hours over Cuba. Cayman Islands, just an isolated storm chance in the afternoon. Belize City, 40% chance tomorrow, 50% chance Thursday, Friday. A little bit more isolated up in the Yucatan, Cancun, and Cozumel. Jamaica's rain chances aren't fantastic, just a 30% chance the next couple of afternoons. Bump it up to a 40 on Friday. Dominican Republic's rain chances, again, begin to improve. 50 tomorrow, 60 Thursday, Friday. Higher in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands the next couple of days. A little bit more isolated on Friday. Bermuda's rain chances are actually pretty darn good the next 3 days. Anguilla's chances are best tomorrow, more isolated to scattered Thursday, Friday. Same thing for St. Kitts and Nevis. And again, the rain chances aren't gangbusters, but isolated very heavy rainfall is a possibility in these places. Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe with a 50% chance tomorrow. Same thing for Dominica and Martinique. Overall, they fall a bit Thursday, Friday. St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, about a 30 to 40% chance. Barbados could still see some heavy rain. Wouldn't shock me if there's another flash flood watch issued for tomorrow. And then rain chances tail off into the weekend. Grenada's rain chances 40% tomorrow, Thursday, 30 on Friday. Trinidad, Tobago staying with that 40% chance, but just like the rest of the islands, some heftier rainfall totals are possible. Guyana, Surinam's rain chances are pretty good, and then isolated rain chances for Nueva Esparta and the ABC Islands. Overall, European rainfall totals the next 7 days in animated form. Again, more than a foot of rain and maybe much more than that through portions of the southeast United States, especially Louisiana. Also, some very heavy rainfall totals are possible over portions of Central America. Notice by the end of this, we get some heavier rain back into the northwest Bahamas. And then there's your maximum of rain in some of the areas I just mentioned. This will march towards the west, towards Hispaniola, eventually trying to get towards Jamaica and Cuba. Still relatively quieter weather, central southeast Bahamas, Cayman Islands, and then from Belize up to the north. How about that, friends? Okay, you want to find us across all social media, you can. Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video to use in these YouTube updates, it's myMediaMundo@gmail.com. Again, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. To reiterate, I will be live on Wednesday tracking Francine as it moves into Louisiana. We'll have our live coverage, our live webcams, the live chat, come and interact with me. The 24/7 radar will be returning on this Tuesday evening, so you can jump in, follow that live radar system, and just track Francine throughout the evening and overnight hours if you want to, right here at Meteo Mundo. As we leave, I appreciate you guys liking this video. Thank you for subscribing. And again, the latest on Francine, winds are 65 miles an hour at this point in time. Still forecast to become a Category 1 hurricane, maybe a high-end Category 1. Hurricane warnings are in effect in the areas in red from Cameron, Louisiana to Grand Isle, Louisiana. And more than likely, landfall will occur sometime in the early evening hours of our Wednesday here, south central, southeast sides of Louisiana. Friends, until I see you live tomorrow, you have a great rest of your day. And I'll have the latest for you then, right here at Meteo Mundo.